We are the most productive humans in history, yet we're still all barely scraping by. Isn't that insane? We are the most productive humans in history, but we're still barely scraping by. Because here's what it all comes down to. If missing one paycheck ruins you, are you really free? You can't take a week off of work. You can't afford half the things in the grocery store. You're struggling between your rent and your health care. Are you free? Yes or no? If freedom is having choices and freedom of choice requires money, if you don't have a lot of security or money, are you free? Yes or no? I really want to hear it. What do people think? Because right now, we don't talk about all this out loud, right? Humans aren't meant to live in this crap. Thank you, Golden Curls. Great name. Humans are not meant for this, right? It's so silly. We're not numbers. We're not just a paycheck. We're not just a cog in a machine. We're supposed to like connect and build and grow. But how many of us are just in survival mode 24/7? Put it in the chat. Survival. That's what life is about, right? That's what they make us feel like life is about. Survival mode. That's not how humans excel. It's a silly way to set up our society. It has nothing to do with foreign powers. They are a symptom. We are so good at pointing at symptoms and calling them the disease. That's because the system wants us fighting over anything except the actual problem, right? So they make us feel like the symptoms are the disease. But that's not what it is, right? Because what's so crazy is this is actually bigger than money. It's just money is the tool they use to keep us down. Because if you don't have freedom of choice, you're not free, right? And if hundreds of millions of people aren't free, we've wasted so much human potential. We really have. How many of us were taught this? Put a me in the chat if you were taught this. If you work hard and do well in school and keep your nose down, you will be successful. You will get ahead. That you will have some breathing room. Not rich, some breathing room. And we're all also told this, that if you're broke, it's your fault. If you're struggling, it's your fault, right? That it was personal decisions that led you there. But if it's just personal decisions, if that's what we're chalking it up to, how come 208 million people are all in the same spot? Did everybody just wake up and decide to be irresponsible, decide to not budget? Does just everybody need better skills? Or is something wrong with the system? If there was a road and 80% of people that were driving down that road did not make it to their destination, would we blame the drivers or would we blame the road? Because when it gets to be 70, 80, 90% of people are driving on the road, but they're not getting to their destination, we need to look at the actual problem, and that's not the drivers. But here's what this really comes down to. They don't just take our money, right? They take our lives away from us. That's what makes me so angry. Because they take our lives away, everyone is stressed and barely scraping by. Because we're stressed and barely scraping by, we are not as kind as we could be. We're more divided because we're looking for a problem. And then when the same media company that is, or the same media that is owned by the corporations comes in and tells us what the problem is, we latch onto it, right? illegal immigrants, foreign countries. No, it's that for decades, we have put corporations over communities. We have put a CEO's bonus over top of communities. Ashley, I like to stay a little bit on the problem. If you want to talk about the solution, we've got everything in the Discord. But really for this, we try to stay on the problem, because if we all think it's a different disease, we'll head towards a different cure. So in about 15 minutes, around 11:30, I'll be talking about how we build these local groups that are all part of a national network to build real power. Once we can build back the ability to boycott, build back the ability to strike, we'll have more leverage. But give me just a few minutes, because again, if I think it's an ear problem, you think it's a back problem, somebody else thinks it's a knee problem, we're all going to be going towards different things, right? And that's where, Nana, you're not a serious person, because no matter what you're trying to do, if the person you're fighting against controls your food, well, when you start winning, they're just going to take away your food. The person we're fighting against controls your health care. So if once you start winning, they're just going to take away your health care. So what people don't seem to realize is that power isn't that there's 100 of us and one of them. Power is that they're the people that control our health care. They're the people that control our housing. And Nona, that's what I'm saying. But if the empire you are fighting against still controls the nation's food supply, then before you fight against them, you should control some of your food supply so they don't have this powerful card that they can pull against you. What it all comes down to is we don't have savings in our bank account. The cost of living and the average salary is about the same, and that is not an accident. Because if we had savings, we'd have the ability to say no. Let me prove that for you. Last week, one of our buddies was in here, Dave. Dave worked a 13-hour shift. Then the very next day, he had to open at 6 a.m. He was pissed. And I told him, Dave, if you had 6 months of savings in your bank account, would you have clapped back at your boss? And he goes, hell yes. But because he didn't have 3 months or 6 months of savings, he didn't feel comfortable pushing back. It wasn't because he didn't want to. It was because he was stuck. How many of you feel stuck, right? You feel stuck. Put stuck in the chat. You feel stuck because you don't have any savings. And you were told that you don't have any savings because you made a bad decision, because you should have gotten better skills, because you should just move somewhere else with a better job. But that's not the case. Appreciate you, Lisa. Appreciate you, Ellen. The real reason you're stuck is because if you don't have savings and you work a 13-hour day and the boss asks you to open the next day, you can't say no. Also, if you're stuck, you can't strike. Striking is like the strongest thing that we can do to push back against the powers. We have to strike. And that's where I'm going to... Anybody that is advocating violence is just not looking at the big picture, right? They just simply don't understand that if you are trying to do something to a group of people and that group of people control your food, your housing, your healthcare, your cars, everything you need to live, you don't have any leverage over them. So they are coming. That's why I just block those people. I hope this is a good lesson to everybody. Don't waste your energy on those whose heads are in the sand. Just move on. Hey, that person doesn't get it. Maybe one day they will. But for right now, I got Lisa and Mavo and Kinetic and Ellen, and we all get it. So we're saying form these local groups. These local groups create power, right? The local groups create power by two things: map and gap. Map the gap. We map what local resources we have that we can rely on that are not corporations. Once we map them, we're able to see where the gaps are. Do we need local farmers? Do we need local healthcare providers? Then we start building a system that works for us instead of against us. This is called localism, because humans are meant for more than survival. Basically, it's community capitalism, stakeholder capitalism. Because if you're not free, you're not capable of living up to your fullest potential. And it really is stupid to set up a society where hundreds of millions of people can't reach their potential because they were born to the factory employee rather than the factory owner. How many Einsteins have died because they were born to the wrong situation where they didn't get the education that they needed to live up to their fullest potential and create that innovation that supports all of us? No, because in this society, your value is how much money you make, and that makes no sense. Your value is not your net worth. But people get treated like your salary is the most important number, that your schedule and your shift is all that matters. No wonder people are depressed. We don't have any savings, so we don't have freedom of choice, because to have freedom of choice, you need money. Then everyone's depressed because we have no human connection. We don't have any time to do the things that humans need. It's not just support small businesses. So it basically comes down to this. We need to be able to strike and boycott, because protesting doesn't really do much unless you have an ultimate goal. And we've all seen these protests that were so big and so loud. And then what did they accomplish? They made people aware. They mobilized people. But did they change the status quo? And I don't see that happening. The way that we can change the status quo is by being able to strike and boycott. We strike when we have enough savings, right? We strike when we have the ability to say no. So that'll take a little bit to build up. But what we can do is we can start forming non-corporate options, right? So bartering is way down. If you just tell people, go barter, what does that do? We need to give specific steps of how all of this links together to create a system and an economy that works for people instead of against them. So what we are saying is that, yes, small business are one aspect of this, but small business is not able to replace the current system. We can rely on some of those small businesses while we start building. But that's what needs to happen. We need to find what we have available, but mostly the corporate system will not allow us to just exit their system without us first doing work, building our own grocery stores, which isn't that hard. Building our own primary care groups, which isn't that hard, because people in your county are already building those things. And this is the way. Humans are made to connect with each other to make sure their needs are met. But right now, our system crushes us to make sure that you can never feel comfortable speaking out, right? But Barry, that's the core of it. Humans are meant for more than survival. And maybe when these robots come, we can actually go live our lives and be happy. Because if you don't have money, you don't have freedom of choice. And if you don't have freedom of choice, do you really have freedom? If your boss can make you open the day after you work 13 hours, we are the most productive humans in history. Think about that. So, Barry, and this is what's crazy. We are the most productive humans in history. Per hour, we are making more money than any other human ever. It takes us 1 hour what it used to take people a whole day to do, right? Here is the productivity versus what we were actually paid. The blue line is what we made for the company. The red line is what we were paid. Do you see how it used to be a mutually beneficial relationship? but not anymore. We are the most productive human beings in history. So why are so many of us still scraping by? Do you think that maybe, right? Well, that's not what it's about at all. That's where people always go, when are you going to go Amish? And no, what if it was just a situation where corporations didn't screw us over all the time? Because corporations don't screw us over because they're evil assholes. I mean, partially, but corporations screw us over because they're incentivized to. That CEO is just in a financial position where they're going to make more money doing that than ever in their entire lives. So what they try to do is maximize their share price so that they can hit their bonuses, right? So what we are doing is just saying, what if there was a system that we call it a system of stewardship? Stewardship. Every single county should have a food steward. Not so that they can make, and it's a business, a food steward as a business, right? Human greed was overcome for decades, Peyton. We had guardrails against greed. But when those people who are greedy control all of the essentials like our food and our housing and our healthcare, then they have immense power over communities. When corporations control everything we need to live, our food, our housing, our healthcare, that power over us is political power. So that power turns into money, that money turns into grips and dependence. So corporations made us dependent on their system. 80% of people depend on corporations for their food. Like 95% of people depend on corporations for their healthcare and their health insurance. But what's crazy is we're the ones that grow the food. Somebody in your county is a farmer and they want to sell food to you. It's just that they're only used to selling it to corporations. There are doctors in your zip code and healthcare providers that want to provide you quality healthcare service at a low price. But who's in between? Corporations. Corporations are just middlemen. So Peyton, I think the hopelessness that you're hitting on is the fact that it used to be the American people and the corporations, and politicians were supposed to help correct the imbalance. That, hey, if corporations started screwing us over, politicians helped us out. But now politicians have been completely bought out by corporations. So that's why it feels like human greed can't be overcome. Because the people that used to be the referees, the politicians, the referees have been bribed by the other team. And the other team are the corporations. The way we fight back against corporations is very different than how we fight back against to gain political power. Because what we are not understanding is that if an entire society is broke financially, they have no power politically. That's all it comes down to. If the majority of people don't have savings, you can't push back, right? That's it. Two nerds, you're pointing at a symptom. You're pointing at a symptom. Do you think that a strong country would allow that to happen? Or was it that the institutions of our country weakened, foreign powers money became more important than sovereignty? So it's not that Israel came and made us lose our sovereignty. We started putting money above all else. Because we put money above all else, we let these foreign powers come in and influence and manipulate us. Yes. So politicians sold us out, but politicians are now teamed up with multinational corporations. So we're not just trying to protest and get loud and threaten the politicians with their jobs. We don't even pay for the politicians to get their jobs. We act like we're the reasons why politicians don't work for us, because they work for the people that pay their campaign funds. And the people that pay their campaign funds are corporations. Because all that happens is we watch the stock prices go up and up and up. But our wages stay the same, and then you get blamed. It's a rigged carnival game. Life feels like walking in the mud or treading water, but the math doesn't math, yo. The math doesn't math. And this is where people come in with their feelings and go, oh, they're just lazy. Oh, no, those people just didn't try hard enough in school to get the right skills. And it's like, no, you want to feel that way because that makes you feel better. But what it actually is when everybody is barely treading water, the system is built wrong. Again, if we had a road and 80% of people that drove on that road did not get to the end of it, would we blame the drivers or would we say something is wrong with the road? Because it's like that carnival game. It's like we're all shooting baskets, right? Our parents told us how to achieve success and survive this economy. And all success is making your own way. That's it. And they have made all of us feel like that if you don't make your own way, you did something wrong. Put a me in the chat if you've been told that, if you've been heard that. If you don't make your own way, you did something wrong, right? You did something wrong. But then you find out, oh shit, this carnival game is rigged. It's not just me, right? You're told, yep, Barry, we're told work harder, budget better, try more. But all they did was make it so that we work so often that we can't even think about why. Why is it different than the previous generation? Why is it that my grandparents could work, one person could have a full-time job, right? And that was enough to pay for 2 or 3 kids, 2 cars, a vacation every year. But because they keep us barely scraping by, because every waking hour, right? Every waking hour, we are thinking about how to make somebody else money. Two nerds, it's not that hard. People think it's this, oh, big thing. They controlled the resources. That's it. So you get powerful when a nation relies on you for its food. That gives you a lot of power. You get powerful when a nation relies on you for their medicine. That's power. Like, Congress isn't power. I'm sorry. Voting, here's how you know. Voting isn't as powerful as money. Do you know how? Do you feel more powerful when you go to vote? Or do you feel more powerful when you've got 10 grand in your bank account? Do you feel more powerful when you go to vote? Or do you feel more powerful if you had 10 grand in your bank account? Voting is very important. I'm just trying to tie together people's personal financial situation with our political power. Mary, you are so right. I think of my grandparents so much. 5 kids, 2 cars. Do you know what my grandfather's job was? He was a mechanic for pinball machines. He would go to different bars and he would pop open the pinball machine and he would fix it. And that was his job. And he supported 5 kids and had 2 houses and lived a very nice life. But we all know what happened is that communities stopped controlling the essentials. Two nerds, that's exactly what you are talking about, is the fact that we all don't understand why we don't have power. That's the thing. If you're unable to strike, it's probably not because you don't want to, right? It's because you can't. Corporations keep you barely scraping by, right? Barely scraping by. And then there's hardly even any competition, right? We're so economically dependent on the corporate system that people will point fingers at anywhere, right? They will point fingers at foreign powers, at different religions, and they are simply doing the bidding of the billionaires. Because what the billionaires want is for you to point fingers everywhere else except the problem. That's the whole game. If they can get us concerned about AIPAC and MAGA and foreign influence and all these other issues, we won't understand that those are symptoms. Moss B, we're saying the same thing, that those are symptoms. The disease is that money rules all. There is no guardrails against greed. It's pay to play, right? Well, then, Kakar, I don't feel as bad about blocking you because I don't know why you come in here every day. This is how we build power, though. Right now, we protest, we vote, we speak out. Nothing changes, right? We are the ants in a bug's life. Because, yeah, we know there's 100 of us and one of them. But right now, we don't have the power to make our voices heard because the ants only recognized they had the power when they were like, oh, shit, the grasshoppers need us for their food. And it's only once the ants understood, oh, we control what the grasshoppers need to live. We actually have the leverage. Well, we don't control the food right now, but it does give us an idea of what we need to do. We have to reduce our dependence on the grasshoppers. Because if the grasshoppers were the ones that provided the ants with all their food, what the hell were the ants going to do? That's the situation we're in right now. All right, y'all. I did not open up the gateway today. So I am going to end, and I'm going to pop back on in like 20, 30 minutes.